All right, here we are again. I I just got done. Actually, it wasn't just. It was more like an hour ago now. I just added every single Pixar movie to my Disney Plus watch list because I'm eventually going to do a thing where I'm going to watch every Pixar movie and then review it. Yeah, but that's probably a story for another day. Anyhow, hello, everybody. Hello to you, and especially hello to you, but not to you, you random fella in Seattle. I'm just messing. Hello to you too. And we're back here at the Wyatt Olinger podcast. Woo woo. Now there's a lot of you out there. I can tell. My subscriber count has been going up the wazoo lately. I don't know why, but actually I do know why. It's because the History Nickelodeon is almost at 10,000 views. That is crazy. It's basically getting the Comic Dub Zooey Mama treatment. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you've watched my channel for quite some time, then you may have heard of, you may have seen all those Olingertoons hanging around. Well, they've been hanging around for almost 4 years at this point, and in today's episode of my beautiful, perfect podcast, actually, I wouldn't say perfect, never mind, forget I said that, but in my beautiful, subpar podcast, as I could put it, I'm probably going to discuss how Olingertoons come to be. There are currently 16 different Olingertoons on my channel, and there's going to be a 17th later this month. Woohoo! So, some of the ones include, Wyatt's House Party, A Literal Anime, Mr. Macabre's Mysterious Museum, Love Block, Four Little Friends, The Experiments of Beverly Hills, Wyatt Forever, Pokemon Laia, Greens from Freedom Island, Buy Our Stuff, Galactic Girls, Ray D for Epic, and Squirrels with a Z. So, how did this all come to be? Well, it all started... so Olingertoons are animated in PowerPoint. We all know that. Yeah, that's more obvious than anything. But what fewer know is that my PowerPoint experience spans far, far before 2019. In fact, I've been making animations in PowerPoint since 2009. Yes, it really goes back that far. I've been making, random animations in PowerPoint since even before... Basically, I've been making animations in PowerPoint before the 2010s. Just let that sink in. The same decade that YouTube launched. Isn't that nuts? Anyhow, I've kind of been evolving over the years. Some of you may have seen, my old PowerPoints video. And that's just to give you a gist of how bad I was at PowerPoint at the time, but still somewhat good at it. So, the idea for Olingertoons, I never really had the idea of uploading PowerPoint series to the channel, simply because it's all thanks to the Forces of Time. The Force of Time was made in MS Paint and YouTube's old photo slideshow feature, and I quickly gave up on the Forces of Time, and for a while decided that maybe making shows on this channel just aren't my thing. But then, a couple years after the Forces of Time ended, I decided to revive the concept. What ended up happening was, back in February of 2019, I did a version of Wyatt's House Party that's kind of different from what we ended up getting. There was only 3.5 episodes of it, and I don't have those anymore because what happened was my computer suffered a virus that, it was the worst possible virus you can imagine. The worst possible thing that could have happened to the computer happened to it. And it had to be sent to Texas so that it could work right again. And because of that, the Wyatt's House Party episodes were just gone. They were no more. Because this was before I started backing up my files. So those Wyatt's House Party episodes are long gone. Anyhow, and around the summer of 2019, I also made like a joke PowerPoint called Low Budget This. I don't remember what the topic was, but it was parodying parodying something, and I just called it low budget version of this thing. But that was also lost in the big crash I mentioned earlier. And then around August or September, was it? I decided, hey, you know what? This whole PowerPointing thing, I could revive this, you know? I could make this a thing again. So I decided to do new revised versions of Wyatt's House Party and Low Budget initially. But then I needed a third show to go with them. Initially, I was like, okay, so I got Wyatt's House Party, I got Low Budget, because back then, this was back when Olingertoons, they weren't even called Olingertoons yet, I wasn't taking them seriously. You know, all those, like, very goofy web animations that don't take themselves seriously? Yeah, Olingertoons were initially going to start like that. They were initially like that. So that's why some of the older Olingertoons are kind of blah by today's standards. So I had Wyatt's House Party and Low Budget, and I also had a third concept that would eventually become One Average Family. Yuck. But then I pushed it back after I decided to create like a spoof of most slice of life anime. You know, the kind of anime that nobody talks about. And if you do talk about it, then people are going to label you a weeb. Yeah, that. And I had the whole sitcom spoof kind of in the back of my head for the rest of 2019. So I thought, okay, maybe that's going to be the fourth. And then I came up with Mr. Macabre's Mysterious Museum in January of 2020, pushing the sitcom idea back to the fifth show. And yeah. So eventually, Mr. Macabre's and One Average Family both got made in April and June of 2020, respectively. But I have learned from my mistakes since then. Like, you don't want to show, like, one abysmal dumpster fire of a family to be your last show, no. It just serves as an example, like, hey, I gotta make something better. I don't want that around again, like... So, yeah, and that's kind of how the whole Olingertoons brand got started. I didn't really come up with the Olingertoons name until around the time Four Little Friends premiered, though. So, how an Olingertoon works, how the life cycle of an Olingertoon goes, is I come up with an idea, usually from looking at something random. I was watching some, infomercials one day, and I suddenly got the idea for Buy Our Stuff. That's how Buy Our Stuff came to be. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to develop this new Olingertoon, come up with a title for it and its basic plot. And, of course, this is months before it actually comes out. So I kind of piece the show together in the meantime before it officially goes up onto YouTube. The first episode goes up onto YouTube, finally. And then I also have, a set number of episodes the show's going to have. Like, for example, when I'm developing the show, I'm going okay, it's going to have 20 episodes. And then once those 20 episodes are all done, then the Olingertoon gets canceled and now becomes a piece of history. However, most Olingertoon developments were kind of fuzzy, but I do remember Love Block being quite the process to develop. So, it was around, it was around April or May of 2020 that I first got the idea for Love Block. It was around the time Mr. Macabre's just premiered. And I was thinking, alright, so this show is going to happen. But initially, But the concept was I wanted to have a show about three girls doing typical activities together. So essentially at the very beginning, Love Block was just an upgrade of a literal anime, which funnily enough is right on the screen right now. So I was creating this show about three girls. Basically it was gender swapped Ed, Edd, and Eddy at the very beginning. Anyone remember that Cartoon Network show, Ed, Edd, and Eddy? Yeah, I certainly do. I've actually have seen quite a bunch of episodes of that, and basically picture that, but with three girls instead. That's what the show was at the very beginning. It didn't even have a title yet. And so I was trying to come up with like names for the three characters. And I initially settled on Hop, Skip, and Jump. Don't ask me how the hell that got into my head. It just did, you know? It just did. But you know, it didn't really, I didn't really like that. That wasn't realistic. It was just, no. Who is going to name their daughter Hop or Skip or Jump? But it kind of does go together in a way, I suppose. So I was struggling to come up with good names for these characters. So I eventually settled on the names Lillian, Charlotte, and Melanie, because how I came up with those is I technically didn't. I googled some popular girl names at the time, and those were three that I liked that popped up. And then I eventually decided on the plot that these three would not be the lead characters, because I eventually created a fourth character, a boy character, that would eventually become Jerry. And he was going to have crushes on the three because, and at the time, the show's name was The Love Square. I'll get to why that was changed in a minute. So, I was developing another Olingertoon around the same time called League of Rejected Heroes, which was going to be an Olingertoon about some hilariously bad superheroes. But I ended up scrapping League of Rejected Heroes around the time Wyatt's House Party ended. So, yeah, I wonder what it would have been like if it actually did get made, though. And of course, there's actually another scrapped Olingertoon I never talked about. This one was called From A to Z. And basically, what From A to Z was about is it was this show that was going to be about a boy named Zachary, who is the youngest of 26 siblings, each beginning with a different name of the alphabet. Each sibling's name beginning with a different letter of the alphabet. So, like, the oldest kid has an A name, then the second a B name, and so on. And Zachary is the youngest of these 26 siblings. And he's just trying to make it through life while also being mentored by his oldest sister, Abby. But then From A to Z also got scrapped, because we don't really need more cartoons about chaotic big families, do we? I don't think so. I bet some of you guys who watch Nickelodeon nowadays can probably guess why From A to Z was scrapped. So anyways, back to why the Love Square's name had to be changed, was because there's this author called Laura Jane Williams, and she wrote a book called The Love Square, and I was like, what? That name's already taken? What the heck? Oh, come on, man. This is anarchy. I can't use that. Oh, come on. So I had to come up with a new name since Laura Jane Williams already took the Love Square. So I thought about taking the word square and replacing it with a similar word, and the first word that came to mind, block. So I decided, Love Block. And yeah, if you've ever wondered why Love Block is called Love Block, that's pretty much your answer. So, because it's about like a 4-way romance, sort of. It's like 1 kid, 3 crushes, 3 plus 1, 4. 4 is a square, square's a block, and it's love. Yeah, that's pretty much why Love Block is called that. And this was something I discovered after Love Block premiered in October of 2020 that struck me again. Apparently, the name Love Block is taken too. There's actually a wine called Love Block. And I don't understand. Like, I didn't know the Love Block wine existed until it was too late to change the show's name again, and that was not something I particularly wanted to do. So, yeah, League of Rejected Heroes and From A to Z both got scrapped around the same time, actually. However, the Experiments of Beverly Hills, despite being a very, very long-running Olingertoon at this point, it's already up to its 55th episode. It actually began development around the time Wyatt's House Party ended and League of Rejected Heroes just got scrapped. So, how the Experiments of Beverly Hills came to be was, my whole life I've always been fascinated by those monster collecting things. Like, Pokemon is a good example, but other examples I liked were Digimon, which, no, isn't a Pokemon ripoff, Neopets, and this other franchise that I thought was a Pokemon ripoff, but it's actually not, called Yokai Watch. I'm pretty sure some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. The Yokai Watch anime played on Disney XD back in the day, so that was neat, I guess. So, I've always thought monster collecting series were the coolest things ever, so I wanted to make my own. I actually have attempted before. Like, one attempt was called Mike Cuties, which I made back in like 2017 or 18. And the monsters were like these cute little things that you would cultivate as if they were plants. However, that never took off. So I decided to make the Experiments of Beverly Hills, where in my sketchbook, I like drew this little blue hamster Pikachu knockoff looking guy named Lloyd. And initially, Lloyd looked a little different. He had a chubbier body, and his mohawk was pointier. And then his design was refined a little, but still getting there. Like, for example, Lloyd's mohawk was originally smaller back in like season 1, but Lloyd's mohawk is actually taller than his whole head now. Like, if you look at season 4 and then look back at the season 1 Lloyd, you can see the difference. Like, by the time the Experiments of Beverly Hills premiered, I already had Rocky, Erbo, Grextor, Dash, and maybe Goober already conceived. Like, some experiments debut in the show, but I've already created and conceived them way in advance. For example, Coco, Butternut, Sir Cucumber, and Mitzi all debuted in the season 3 premiere. However, I actually developed them around the time of season 1, actually. They were some of the earliest experiments created, technically speaking. And I already have some experiments created that are not going to be in the show until, like, I don't know, 2024, or maybe if there's a season 7. Yeah, Experiments of Beverly Hills is going to be getting a 6th season once season 5 ends. And I already have the basic story thought out, but can't quite tell you what it is yet. That's going to have to wait. And then the Experiments of Beverly Hills, it kind of started off slow. It was one of the least watched Olingertoons initially, because this was back when people were too busy watching What If SpongeBob Ended After the First Movie, which I'm still getting views to. But then the Experiments of Beverly Hills started getting more popular by around season 3, I believe. And now people come and watch it all the time. Like I get comments on the episodes from KD. Yeah, KD tends to comment a lot on the channel, actually. And Simon also asks questions about the Experiments' lore. And I try to answer it to the best of my ability. Of course, using the lore Simon came up with, I could probably write like a whole book about the lore and stuff. That would be pretty nice, right? And yeah, the Experiments Beverly Hills got made. I continue to make new crazy monster characters for it, and it's still a staple to this channel. It's been a staple to the Wyatt Olinger channel ever since. Now, and then there are some later Olingertoons that premiered around the time. Like, all the way back in March of 2021 is when I began developing Greetings from Freedom Island, which back in late 2020, I had this recurring idea dancing in the back of my head about some teen girl living a calm life in Hawaii. But I thought it was kind of boring, so don't get me wrong, I love Hawaii, but so I switched it from Hawaii to South Carolina, and I kind of like developed a whole world from there about setting sail, and it's eventually what turned into Greetings from Freedom Island. Like Mr. Macabre's Mysterious Museum, Greetings from Freedom Island actually had an initial pilot episode, but I never filmed it or posted it. That's the thing about, sometimes Olingertoons actually do get legitimate pilot episodes made for them, but they're never posted onto YouTube. So, yeah, I guess that means Wyatt Olinger Lost Media is out there waiting to be found. I'm not a big channel, so I don't think it'd be right to call L Supersonic Q or anything like that, so maybe someday, when the searches become more mainstream. I mean, some pilots have been getting found, like the Super Y pilot was found recently, and I think that's really cool. That's really cool seeing, like, how he was like a purple bobblehead originally, and like a green, what was it, like green, almost looked like a onesie, and he's got this little kangaroo with him. Yeah. I think it's much better than the Super Y we ended up getting, to be honest with you. Anyways, back to Olingertoons. And then, of course, Pokemon Laia, which is another long-running Olingertoon. That came into play when I decided, hey, you know what would be pretty sweet? If I developed an Olingertoon based on pre-existing material. So, I came up with Pokemon Laia. It was essentially the show adaptation of my own Pokemon fan game idea that kind of got turned into an Olingertoon. Like, some elements from the original journal are also present in it. But I'm gonna confess, I don't like working on Pokemon Laia. Not one bit. I just kind of want the show to be over. It's been dragging on for so long, but unlike the Experiments of Beverly Hills, which I've got some connection to, Pokemon Laia is just getting, and episodes are getting kind of long to make, so, yeah, when Pokemon Laia actually ends later on, it'll be a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, you know? So, yeah, Pokemon Laia premiered back in September of 2021, and it's still going to this day, and, yeah, Four Little Friends was based on a comic, we all know that, right? Yeah, I'm gonna try to upload every single comic someday, because I still have them all somewhere. I'm probably gonna put them all in one big organized file to do so, however. Okay, now for how Galactic Girls got started, because we were kind of covering the history of Olingertoons. So the idea for Galactic Girls came around the time Love Block was ending, like its final few episodes were coming out. Like, the idea for Galactic Girls came from quite a lot of different things, actually. Like, ever seen Sailor Moon or the Powerpuff Girls, or shows like that, and also Invader Zim, where I basically mashed them all together to sort of create this one hodgepodge show. So, like, how Galactic Girls initially was conceived was it was a show where I initially sketched out Sam in both her human form and alien form, and I was kind of developing this whole idea of, like, these girls coming from not Macalia originally, but Venus. But then once it was decided that the units would be traveling to other planets and Venus was no special, so I made up the fictional Macalia. And originally there was only going to be 4 Galactic Girls instead of 5, believe it or not, because the only ones I had created at that time were Sam, Rosie, Lola, and Erica, and then Grace got added later. And then the show premiered in September at almost 9 p.m. that evening, and Galactic Girls ended up blowing up in popularity. It was the most popular thing on my channel in the last quarter of 2022. Like, everyone was coming to watch this show But I think it primarily had to do with the fact that Simon was also watching all hooligan of episodes over and over, because Galactic Girls is Simon's favorite Olingertoon. If you look at the comments and the Olingertoon tier list video, he makes that blatantly clear. Okay, now we're getting toward the end of the podcast, so I'm gonna reveal some Olingertoons that are, well, actually not all of them. I won't say their names, but I will say one name, though. So I made a community post about coming to a park, and that show is going to be called Riley's Park. I've been developing Riley's Park since about March of 2023, and I have been super excited to get started working on the show, and I can't wait for all of you to see it. It's probably going to be like the trendy new Olingertoon of 2023, hopefully. However, I'm also developing another show at the same time as Riley's Park about a mysterious lady who goes around giving money to poor people. The show's name starts with a C, but I can't say the full name of it just yet. And yeah, that's how Olingertoons come to be. They're developed for several months, and then they officially go up onto YouTube for the first time. Of course, I make the whole announcements. And then eventually they get wrapped up. And yeah, that's that. Of course, Olingertoons are pretty much a main thing on my channel at this point. Not the main thing, but a primary element to it. And yeah. And lucky for us, the Olingertoons aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Even though some of them are exhausting to work on. I actually never had trouble working on a literal anime, so that's great. But Mr. Macabre's Mysterious Museum, oh boy, I hated working on that. Even though it's grown to be quite a notable Olingertoon that's left quite a legacy. So, yeah, we've officially reached the end of the podcast. I have rambled on about a bunch of subpar web shows for far too long. And I just want to say thank you for listening. This is the first episode where I actually changed the images. Let me know if you want me to do that some more. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Happy August. And, well, I'll be seeing ya. Bye.